I just always want to give a bit of background just in terms of the history and the story behind Marketing Fridays. Just so that for everyone who's coming here for the first time, you get to understand. Those who have been here before and understand the story, it will be good to refresh. But essentially, you have no choice but to listen. But the thing is that in conceiving Marketing Fridays, the way we've structured it is that it is your first meeting on a Friday morning. So think of it as if you had to go do like an out of office thing and you do 9 to 11 and you say you're going to Marketing Fridays, right? Meeting interesting people over coffee. You get to learn. The thing is, the platform was built as a response, right? So I sat down. I was working as a marketing manager at the time in a company in Mabone called Perpetuity, and I was like, "She's man," because I'm not at an FMCG like a Nestle or Unilever or SAP or all the guys. Is that in those environments, you get to do a lot of these sessions because it's a robust training and development program. But when you're a marketer and you're not in those spaces, what is there? Right, so I started looking around and I couldn't find a lot of things. Actually, I found nothing. Then that frustration led to the birth of the platform to say, let's create something that's accessible where you can commit to say, I want to come through, meet people within my industry. It's always good that if you are in one industry, so you said you're in the medical healthcare, right? And you meet somebody who is in digital. And then you meet somebody who is in FMCG. And then you meet somebody who is in law, finance, right? What that does is that you are always exposed and you become insulated when you're in a particular industry. So it's always good when you go out and you meet other people who might be doing something similar or slightly different in different industries that can come back and enhance the work that you do. So that was really the genesis, I guess, or the vision behind the platform. And we've been going at it ever since. So thank you for taking the time, coming through. And then thank you to our strategic partners, Writers Block, that continue to support the session. Because as you can understand is that, it takes a few people to put something like this together. So we continue on that journey together. And Writers Block has been a great partner. And then with that said, we are going to now start. Hope you enjoyed the session. We have our amazing guest today, Zakithi. So I reached out to Zakithi. She was very generous. She accepted the invite. So thank you so much for accepting and honoring and coming through today to share. She is an avid learner herself, somebody who's very passionate about learning and transferring knowledge and really building brands. So today, I don't like to use the word masterclass. It's not a masterclass. so not saying it's a masterclass, but I think the beauty of it, and as I was coming to the venue today and I was reflecting on it, the beauty of it is that, if you think about it, is that in your individual capacity, it's not something that you would get to say, hey, Zakithi, let me know what's on your mind, right? Because on a given day, busy, trying to build brands, heavily in it. I mean, right now it's winter, so thank you, because we know that in winter she's looking after more hot chocolate, Milo. Those numbers must be pumping now. And she's here with us to share. So really, thank you so much, Zakithi. And yeah, I'll hand over to you.
Morning, everybody. First of all, thank you, Mandarin, and thank you for if you weren't here, it'd be pretty empty. But I said to myself as I was driving in, if there's like 3 people, it's fine. If you have 3 people, your best little blah, blah, blah. That they go and they tell their friends, stuff is happening over there. And yeah, so thank you all for being here this morning. I promise to give you my best. I don't know about a masterclass, but I will give you my best. Just a little bit about me professionally very quickly. Nico mentioned at the moment I'm working at Nestle. I'm the category marketing manager on a category called cocoa malt beverages with brands like hot chocolate, Milo, cocoa, anything that has a malt or cocoa base to it. That's how Nestle classifies the business. There's also a second part of the business that I work in under a hub called dairy. That part of the business is called ambient. And basically on ambient, it's anything that's a milk powder that doesn't need to be refrigerated. So monster brands like Nespray, Nido, anyone who has kids will know what I mean when I say these are monster brands. Before joining Nestle, I was working at PepsiCo, working on South Africa's favorite knickknacks, which we'll talk about a little bit today. And I've had a very varied career. Before then, I would say I spent almost a lifetime in cosmetics. I was a beauty girl, which is why I woke up this morning and said, the biggest eyelashes I can find, if I'm talking about if they look. So, Loda, wherever you are listening, your eyelashes are on. So I worked in Estee Lauder on the Estee Lauder brand, which, you work in a company where you turn a corner, there's MAC. You turn another corner, there's Bobbi Brown. You turn another corner, there's Clinique. These are monster brands dominating beauty as we know it today. And before then, I'd actually had the chance to work in as well in cosmetics, but in direct selling. And in the direct selling model, it's women from all kinds of backgrounds selling to each other at taxi ranks, at spaza shops, at church societies. So I've spent a lifetime going to very glam events, sitting at taxi ranks, sitting in church society meetings. But the origins of my career were really in liquor and sales environment. Those were very testing days, but it was the right learning ground for me. I think that the best marketeers come from a commercial point of view. You're really able to build brand stories when you understand how to build the bones of a brand from the ground up. It's not just creative, unfortunately. Great creative is the cherry on top, but if the bones of the brand wobble, you'll leave shelf very quickly. So that's just a little bit about me. I'm a Durban girl, but I've been in Joburg for a lifetime. I went to school at Tux. I rejected Vitsi, so I never got the H. Okay. So we'll start. And the usual way I like to start, there's an army recruitment technique that I just love. I just love this thing. I heard it, but that's my thing. I say something, and if you get it, then you'll say, get it. I say something else, and if you get that, then I'll ask you, have you got it? And you say, good, right? So I'll ask a question, get it, got it, good. Okay. So my name is Zakithi Mncwango, get it?
Got it.
Good. Today we're going to talk about how you connect in a data-driven world, right? How brands break through, how story can crack right through, and you can build strong emotional connection in this environment where there is noise all around us. Get it? Good. So at ShopRite, if you walk into any ShopRite meeting, they tell you must be on, you must be brief, and you must be gone. In that accent, so you know it. And you're sitting in a very cold meeting room in Cape Town and you hear that. So I promise you, because Cyril said the kids must play this weekend, I will be on, I will be brief, and then I will be gone. Get it? Good. Okay. So, and I put it there. This lady, look, she's got an agenda. Hi, bo, Cupcakes Country is on long weekend. I promise you will be quick about it. Extremely quick about it. I've put Kim here. People say, oh no, there's Kim. If we're talking about data, connecting, breaking through, she should be on every presentation within them, whatever you feel about her and her family, right? So these are some of the topics we're going to cover. And I take a very conversational style to how I talk. So mid-presentation, if you have something to say, you say this lady's talking off her nuts, she's crazy, pick up your hand, let's hear what you have to say. Let's make it as conversational as possible. Get it?
Got it.
Good. Okay, so there's a gigantic data ocean. And I love to hear about the metrics that optimize data. We're consistently looking for ways, specifically on a platform like video, how to connect, how to break through. I think that when we talk about data and connection, sometimes we often reserve the conversation to just video. From an FMCG point of view, you watch the video, you engage with the content, but you must go to the shop to buy the product. So that last line, there's still data happening within the shop aisle. And it's something that we really need to remember as marketeers, right? Whether you're in a service-based business, whether you're in a product business as I am, there is a 360 point of connection. It doesn't just live on video. So in this gigantic data ocean, we have to optimize on several points. Get it? Good. This is Scottie Pippen, the greatest small forward of all time. Get it? Good. Scottie Pippen doesn't get the kind of credit he deserves. You'll find videos all over the internet of Jordan talking about the fact that I'm referred to as the greatest of all time. That would not have even been in the realm of possibility without a player like Scottie Pippen by my side. Because we're talking about data, Scottie Pippen is a very important starting list, right? In that data is stubbornly limiting where it finds conventional thinking. So many moons ago, the NBA is really taking off. It stopped just being a Lakers game. This Bulls team is looking like a championship team. And so they play the season out. They become the champions. And the NBA then comes to Scottie Pippen and says, we're ready to make you a deal. Scottie Pippen is from a family of 12, so he's from a particular background. Get it? Good. And because he's from a particular background with this young family he has to feed, the NBA says to him, we'll give you $18 million, 5 years, and we get to decide what deals you sign outside of your salaried NBA contract. $18 million. At the time, staggering. Get it? Good. So Scottie Pippen says, I have 11 siblings. I've got a mother. I've got a father. I've got a wife. I've got young kids. This is a good deal. Get it? Good. He signs this deal. Almost 2 years later, the NBA ceiling cap then rises. And what that means is players who were earning on average $5-6 million a year now skyrocket to $60-70 million. At the same time, Jordan signs the Nike deal. Then an earth-shattering $100 million on top of his NBA salary. Scottie Pippen, the greatest point forward of all time, who's supporting Jordan, is still on a 5-year, $18 million contract. Get it? Good. In the prime of his career, Scottie Pippen signed the most bum deal you've ever heard of as far as the NBA. And he was stuck with this bum deal in the prime of his career. Get it? Good. His limiting belief, his idea that data exists at a single point in time and that it doesn't evolve, made him sign a deal like that. Jordan, on the other hand, got a similar offer, but he had agents who said to him, you're Jordan, and brand deals are going to start to shake up. Nike approaches him and says to him, look, we want you to endorse a shoe. Jordan's team says, no, we don't just want to endorse a shoe. We want to create a shoe, co-create a shoe. So Jordan's deal was really the start of what we know now as modern sponsorship, right? Mm-hmm. This Air Jordans, and we know they've become part of the cult, part of the lexicon. So can you imagine being Scottie Pippen? You're in the prime of your career. The greatest player of all time is telling you, I could not be me without you. And you're stuck not earning what you should be earning. You're watching people sign mega brand deals. So he spent the 90s being bitter, to be honest with you. He's still a little bit bitter. The good news is that towards the end of his career, he did sign a deal around $64 million. His final contract that he signed, it wasn't with the Bulls. So he did make a little bit of money back towards the end of his career, but it's certainly nowhere near the almost billion-dollar status that Jordan is able to reach because him and his team understood that data doesn't exist at a single point. It moves. And because data moves, your assumptions must move with it. So I've included here in the middle a very, very interesting block. Kantar is probably one of my favorite research agencies. They do incredible work, really pointed insight around the future of building brands and the future of marketing as we know it. In fact, they have a report that they release every 2 years called the Future 100, where they almost put together 100 trends, 100 ideals. They bring together thinkers within the Kantar network from all over the world to predict the future of brand building. And Kantar ideates that in order to make emotional connections in the sea of data, brands need to now do 3 fundamental things. They need to be consistent, connected, and optimized. And of the 3, this connectedness is the one that requires brands to think as data than more than a moment in time. For video views right now, the average views is around 7 seconds. If you get beyond that 7-second threshold, you have reached an attention breakthrough. That's for this moment in time. 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, those metrics could be completely different. So in order for brands to be connected, consistent, and optimized, they need to be predisposed to more people. People can't connect consistently with your brand if they don't see it. And what this graph really asks brands to do is measure how meaningful they are and how they measure and where they place as far as point of difference, right? So you could be a brand, for instance, Scottie Pippen. He's a brand who had really strong meaning, right? No, he had a strong point of difference. But his meaning in the game, right, as a point guard was really low. So he was here in this explore block. And if you understand your, hi lady, your part here in this meaning block, you make different decisions. Brands, for instance, who are at an explore but have a low point of difference. There's a certain piece or point of brand work you have to do. So it's a really vital tool in terms of how you scope where a brand is relative to consumers. Get it? Mm-hmm. Good. So we've started with data, seeing data as more than just a single point in time, and making ourselves aware that we are in a sea of yada yada. I mean, there was a lady who called me yesterday. I was on my way to work at 7:30. This lady is talking about selling me insurance. I said, man, you absolutely, and it was dog insurance. I said, man, no, I don't have a dog. Why are you calling me? And it's just a company trying to make a breakthrough. And for them, it's if I catch you in the morning, maybe I'll be able to break through this gigantic sea of data, right? You know, there's certain ads you get served consistent. You think these people, it's now harassment at this stage. If you were on TikTok a year ago, Fanta harassed us. I even put a comment to say, hello, brand team. Did you put all your money on TikTok? Please go. Because it was harassment at that stage, but it's throwing everything and trying to catch something. And actually, what you need to do is build connection. In a sea of data, connection breaks right through. It's been almost 20 years, but if I say it's not inside, it's on top. That's connection. And that brand has been chasing that ideal for the last 20 years. But it's because it's a successful ideal. So that's how you break through, connecting emotionally. Data is the only thing more ubiquitous than cat memes. Everyone wants data. I don't like cat memes. I watch North Sea and this is how I know you're weird. Everyone has their thing that they watch. When I'm on TikTok, I like to watch containers falling into the North Sea. And there's a song attached to it. It's quite a thing. Yeah. So I watch containers falling into the North Sea, and I watch ingrown toenails. I also at a point liked watching soap being crushed. Yes. I love those crushing. I mean, it's a little bit of ASMR. There's soaps are all bright and colorful, so it's really interesting. But that is what data can do if it targets to the right person. The very important thing for me, and when agencies come in, especially agencies who optimize for attention, come in and say, we can get you 4 seconds on this. We can get you 100 million views on this. How can you get me that in this context? Mm-hmm. This is the consumer reality. The category I work in is almost 15% inflation impact. It is expensive to consume. In particular, in this category, something really dramatic happened kind of in the last year. There was a crop issue in West Africa. And because West Africa is the almost 90% source of cocoa for global consumption, if something happens in Ghana with the crops, there is no cocoa globally. And so the situation kind of from last year coming into this year was there was a stage where the raw material cost on cocoa was as much as platinum. Cocoa was more expensive than gold. And cocoa, we don't just consume it in hot chocolates. The confectionery products you eat all have cocoa in them. Cake has cocoa. You are very late. You're late. There's an entire ecosystem of products that collapsed because there is a global cocoa shortage. I'm very proud to tell you that because Nestle is the largest consumer of cocoa globally, our supply chain protected us a little bit, right? We were able to forward plan and forward buy. Forward plan and forward buy still at increased costs. So if you go to the shop and a cake that used to cost 200 Rand is suddenly 400, it's because the price of cocoa doubled. And anything that doesn't taste quite right anymore, they've probably tried to find a way to replace cocoa within some of the products you consume. So if you eat a chocolate and you're like, this doesn't quite taste right, something might be happening there. You might have read last week already, Beacon was sold. Beacon is a strong confectionery player. Beacon will no longer exist. The business who owned Beacon is still going to keep jelly tarts. So look at the products that they're keeping. Anything that doesn't have a cocoa base to it, everything else has been sold off. So there's a sum game here that brands are making. Obviously, there's certain categories that are a little bit more insulated, personal care and such, but the primary consumption categories in FMCG are heavily impacted. And I don't care how much data you have stored, what you can pull up in your files, this trumps all of that. Successful data breaks through a consumer reality. Estee Lauder is the original Avon lady. Get it?
Got it.
Good. This woman built an American dynasty, an empire, through instinct. I raise her because oftentimes data that's validated by instinct is viewed as inferior, when sometimes actually instinct breaks through. Estee Lauder had the instinct when she walked into Saks Fifth Avenue at a time where buying departments didn't exist. You had to speak to Frank to get your product into the store. And if Frank didn't like you, that was it. She comes into Saks Fifth Avenue. She's carrying Youth Dew, which is an iconic Estee Lauder fragrance. It's almost 60 years old now. I hope nobody's wearing it because it's a bit old. It's your mommy's. She comes into Saks Fifth Avenue. They shoo her away. She drops a bottle of Youth Dew on the floor, right? So it spills all over the floor, and obviously it's fragrant. It's really strong. It smells amazing. And that is how Youth Dew got into Saks Fifth Avenue. That is how the Estee Lauder brand got into retail. Her instinct said, if people can just smell my product, if people can just feel the cream on their skin, I know they will buy it. So she would, yes.
Just want to add, my mom is a Youth Dew fan, and I actually have this memory of talking about connections. If I smell Youth Dew, I know we're going to church. Because that's what my mom would wear.
I love that. It's instinct.
It
Even
is,
that. Fragrance is memory and there's instinct attached to it. So instinct is a valid data point. What you need to do as marketeers is sharpen your instincts. And how do you sharpen instinct? You read. You connect with people outside of your industry. You involve yourself in information. There's a quote I love that says, be as interested as you are interesting. We're in a culture that really prioritizes being the most interesting person in the room, having the most to say. I find real value in you only become the most interesting person in the room when you're well-read, right? A well-read, well-traveled person, well-versed in topics of all kinds. This woman trusted instinct related to her product, and she built $1 billion empire. Estee Lauder remains today the most patented beauty company in the world. They are a science-led business. They just so happen to be creating makeup. They could be creating pharma. For instance, this product, does anyone know what this is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's advanced night repair. It's the world's #1 serum. It is the most patented beauty product in the world. More than 100 patents attached to it. It's 60 years of science, 60 years of development. And it's the product that I think if they understood Estee Lauder's instinct, they'd be rechanneling their energy towards. Because the reality is, Estee Lauder is in a world of trouble. The core regions of the business, APAC, EMEA, and the Americas, but more substantially, APAC is in trouble. In the core categories that Estee Lauder plays in, skincare, makeup, fragrance, and hair care, can you see what's happening? All categories, but probably most materially, they're losing ground on skincare. And a lot of it is happening because they're not evolving their instinct with the time. The way consumers experience cosmetics now, then is different. Then we wanted to know about hyaluronic acid. We wanted all the intricate detail. Now we want an emotional connection. People buy brands like Dove because they've built an emotional connection. I don't think anyone in this room could tell me the first thing about Dove that makes them an ingredient champion. We don't know. We just know that they champion real beauty. And as a cause, this is compelling data. It's compelling enough that I can buy into an ideal. So instinct can build empire. Instinct can also tumble empire. Data is not absolute. This one I think we saw a couple of months ago. Get it?
Got it.
Good. A British giant brought to its absolute needs. I mean, the growler Jaguar is part of the lexicon, not just in the motor industry, but of our lives. There's a Benz, there's a Merc, there's a Jag, right? If you're a person who's arrived, that's what you drive. So they decide it's time for us to branch into electric vehicles. This is the future of car making, luxury car making. They've seen other players like Tesla. They've seen BMW with their i-Range. I mean, the i8, every time I see it on Joburg Street, what a sexy car. I cannot believe it's an electric vehicle. Mercedes-Benz with their e-Range as well. So electric is the future. Jaguar says, we want to be a part of that. Get it?
Got it.
Good. We want to be a part of that but we don't want to launch a car attached to them. They come up with this new branding identity that polarizes social media. And the gist of the identity is about copying nothing, about breaking molds. It's a really creative ad with no cars in it. They lose the growler. One of the strongest pieces of equity they have attached to the brand, they totally remove as far as this new transition. Because they say this newer audience isn't as attached to the older equity measures as the new audience we're trying to build. Get it? Good. Can you imagine BMW losing their black propeller in the sky? That is an equity icon. It's an equity mark. So they abandon it. To date, they lost almost 100% sales on their electric vehicle. In the last 2 months, they've sold, and some of the articles agree or disagree, but the average number is around 1,000 cars globally.
Yeah.
The electric portion of the Jaguar business has tanked.
Yeah.
Not only has that portion tanked, sorry, I see the text is small, they've also parted ways with the creative agency, Accenture Song, who came up with this new transformation and said, this is the future, this is the way. What this relaunched forgot is, in order to move into the future, you cannot forget what makes the past so iconic. That is a data point. And what made Jaguar so iconic is the growler. It's performance-based cars. None of this talks about performance. It's sustainable, but so what? And I'll go back to the slide where I showed you that from a consumer point of view, there are compelling data points around being able to afford to live. Those are more material to a consumer than sustainability at this point. And I'll be extremely frank around that. So there's a major strategic disconnect. But to me, the source of Jaguar's fundamental problem happened in 2018. In 2018, they released the I-Pace. It was one of really the first performance sustainability vehicles in that electric range. They had the right opportunity to say, we're going after this segment, release a new car from 2019. 2018 happens and they wait until 2024 to start talking about electric vehicles. In that gap, Tesla has come. Tesla has come. Okay, I'm not going to talk too much about Elon. But Tesla has come, and Tesla has transformed how we talk about electric vehicles. We never used to mention performance and electric vehicles in the same breath, right? Those green people in their green little buggies, who cared? You couldn't achieve performance, luxury, German-style performance on an electric vehicle until Tesla came. Then BMW caught a wake up. So they missed a first mover opportunity and they tried to catch it years later. They dropped this, then they wait another almost full year before they launch an actual car, and we never saw a car. The only thing we saw was this ideation. We never saw an actual car. Their dealer network collapsed. So I'm now a Jaguar dealer. There are no new cars on the floor. I have nothing to sell except your granddad's Jag from the 1960s. If I'm a car enthusiast, I'll buy it as a collector, but I'm not able to recruit new buyers into the brand. So the dealers then all come together and say, we're going to sue Jaguar because we are their dealer network. They're not supplying any innovation to us. And it was an unsuccessful legal route, but certainly an indication that a poor innovation pipeline, and data informs a strong innovation pipeline. A poor innovation pipeline can limit the growth of your brand. Get it? Good. Yes.
Sort of like to build, maybe, because I'm not disagreeing. Do you not think there were two other factors at play? Firstly, the timing of this reposition, right? Most polarized era in modern history, if you think about it. People are very conservative and they look at the imagery and they feel that more of this new liberal sort of like narrative is being forced down, right? Which goes against the tradition of Jag, number one. And then number two, I think they did have data, but they focused on the wrong data.
They focused on the wrong data points.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
They championed wokeism, and let's call
100%.
it
Yeah.
wokeism. And I could fundamentally have liberal ideals, but if I come to Jag, I still want to buy a car. I mean, I get that you recycle, you've got a valuable supply chain transparency, but I want to buy a car that delivers on performance, that delivers on British craftsmanship, and that never happened. So I fundamentally agreed with you.
when you receive data, you need to be clear which are the points that are salient and which are not. And brands can live or die by those decisions. Get it? Good. So we talk about, hey, if you're gonna make a brand successful with all the data points, hey, you must put heart, purpose. Every meeting I go to, purpose. Purpose. Hey, but what is the purpose? Hey, our creative agency at the moment is VML. This is great. You will sell more Milo. But where's the purpose agenda here? Purpose is great, but purpose too has its limitations, right? If you don't view data within an ecosystem of ideals. For me, the VW Night School is the most pointed example of how purpose can meet commerce and build one of the most dynamic integrated brand campaigns I've seen in the last 2 years within South Africa. Get it? Good. VW got a compelling piece of insight. VW sells cars. But the insight they got is to say, in this environment where we sell cars, the majority of accidents that are happening at night. And if I think about my dad, who always tells me that when he took his driver's license, you kind of go in the car and you would touch the mirrors. And I said, what are you touching them for? He's like, no, we also didn't know, but we were told you must go in and touch. You are driving amongst people who went to touch mirrors when they... So be cognizant of that. So VW having this insight then says, actually, what's happening now is that the architecture around driving isn't supporting what the data is telling us. And the data is telling us that accidents are happening at night. People don't know how to navigate even the most brilliant cars within whatever the driving challenges or situations are at night. Get it? Good. So actually what we need to do as VW, in order to sell more cars or drive our purpose point around selling more cars, is help people to drive better at night. We have a VW Advanced Driving School. So let's create modules that help people become better nighttime drivers. And then they say, this is great. This is purpose. Fabulous. Purpose. Luries, hello. Because luries are word purpose. Then the sales director says, okay, great. But how's it going to sell more cars? So they approach an insurance partner. And they say to the insurance partner, if people buy a VW and they go on our VW night driving course, can you partner with us to help them get some kind of discount on their insurance premium? The insurer says, great, this fits our ideals as well. So from then until now, it's still an existing program. If you buy a VW, you attend their advanced driving VW night school, you get a hefty discount on your insurance premium. It's an ecosystem of value that's endorsed by the Department of Transport, the Road Traffic Management Agency. So successful has this campaign been that it's been adopted in LATAM. And if you know anything about Brazil and LATAM markets, they're very in line with Africa, South Africa in particular. So it's a campaign that originated here, but it's now got global roots because it matches purpose and commerce. Get it? Good. I want to show you a little bit around, some of what they've gotten. And for me, the purpose is so compelling here because it's not just, you going to recycle your straws. It's life and death. Better driving is less accidents on the road. How profound. All of this data must be informed by some kind of fundamental trends. Where is the world going? I spoke earlier about Kantar. Kantar and Nielsen have a trend forecast read. The Nielsen one, I forgot what it's called, but the Kantar one was the future. And they pick out what the world is talking about. What are the synergies? So there's themes that are coming up globally that are going to expand in the next 2 years around collective belonging, conscious well-being, which we're seeing. If Goop, Gwyneth Paltrow, all of them expanding reality. This is where Gen AI comes in, betterment brands. I want to really lean into this collective belonging. The brands who are breaking through are brands who make you feel like you're a part of something. Club that nobody can join. And this conversation and this, you can't see it very clearly here, but it's inclusive and it's connected all over the world. We think about wokest topics, wokest ideals that kind of galvanized the US and then galvanized the world. The Arab Spring is a club of its own, right? Revolution was needed at that time in the world. Right now, with what's happening in the States, there's certain topics as a global audience we're galvanized around. Imagine if a brand stepped in. And these are like really emotive topics. If a brand stepped in and said, we want to speak around what's happening with the ICE detentions in the States. A company really steps in and says, actually, we want to have an honest conversation about Palestine. These are hard topics, but they are what champion collective belonging. So I'm not going to lean too deeply into the stats, and I'm happy to share this presentation, but collective belonging as a single data point for brands to tap into is one of the most compelling trends for the next 5 years. Brands who are able to show consumers that you can be part of something. You don't just consume a product and go home. You can be part of a story, an ideal. The Coke name campaign. They've repeated it again, and I'm certain it's going to come back for the next 8 years. Because there's something about belonging, about seeing your name on a can, showing it off to social media, connecting over it. So it really taps into that. A great example, I spoke about the fact that these conversations are happening all over the world. Data is really important when you understand that it's not unique to you. Sometimes we're talking about Cupcake, we're talking about what happened when they went over to the White House, and we think those conversations are unique to us. To me, it's really compelling to see that some of these trending topics are themes all over the world. Somebody in LATAM is having the same conversation, the same thinking as you. So how do we use that as a data set to build scalable ideas? Guinness is such an interesting case study for me. If you are anywhere in West Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, you will understand the strength of Guinness. I mean, it's akin to champion beer. Why is it champion? Yes. They're champion beer. But Guinness, I mean, even saying the word, you can hear the rolling hills of Ireland. Really, they took a quintessentially Irish brand and brought an African heart to it with this Black Shines Brightest campaign. It's about how did you create a sense of belonging, a sense of an African identity under the banner or the hub of what is an Irish brand. So they went and they found moments, connection points all over the world that speaks to what being African is. In the UK, they sponsored the Music of Black Origin Awards. In Ghana, they sponsored a similar type of awards platform. So they did a lot of things that connected people around our Africanness. Obviously, we will not have seen much in South Africa. Guinness is still a very, very small base here in South Africa. So it's really just to say that data can connect us all over the world. It just doesn't have to be unique to you as a market. Get it? That's good. So let's lean into integrating data with storytelling. And I'm not going to harp on this because I really want to jump to the case study. In order to win, in order to tell a story that means something to a consumer who's chasing an inflation blanket that's really hooding their pocket, who's got data coming at them from all angles, you have to balance intimacy and immediacy. A lot of the times, brands have a strong intimacy story, but there's not a compelling immediacy around, okay, so what do I do? Where we're really, really good in terms of South African brands or brands operating within South Africa, this lever 4, a distinctive atmosphere. We know how to do that. We know how to do that on social. We know how to do that in the event space. If I think of Castle Light Unlocks, how dynamic. People are collaborative. They're here for a single moment in time. And this is a brand previously that funded other people's events, right? It would be, I don't know, the what sponsored by Castle Light. And they've now gone and said, no, we want our own distinctive atmosphere. Johnny Walker is no longer a named partner in a polo. It is now the Johnny Walker Polo. They are creating brand moments for themselves. They're creating dynamic movements. Every time I drive into town and I see what I now call the Johnny Walker building, because I think they've had that building branded for the last 2 years. To me, it's a moment in time how you can create visual dynamism in a single space using traditional media, like out of home. There was a time where, and you'll know it if you drive through Rosebank, that it was the Jameson building or the Jameson Point. Jameson owned that space for more than 5 years. When I drove past and it was no longer Jameson, I actually had to, what's going on? Why is Jameson not there? Why have they left? It was a marker for how you can own a dynamic space at a single point in time. Where I think South Africa or brands operating within South Africa need to make real efforts is dialing into commerce-led human connection. Anyone can tell a story about the dying children of Uzbeki, I don't know. Anyone can tell a story about their poor Negro childhood. I mean, I'm sure a lot of us here in this room had a poor Negro childhood. It's just not compelling anymore. But when you make it human and commercially related, I spoke earlier, obviously, about the VW Night School. If I'm a terrible driver and there's an opportunity for me that gets me a discount on my insurance, that's the missing link. data that ties into compelling commerce. And what it will do when I talk about data tying into compelling commerce, we will move from advertising to algorithms. How the funnel works is you get fed an ad. You think, oh, I might like to try this Coke Waza. I see all the ads. I see all the out of home. You go into store. I quite like it. Get some of the information you need. Your last mile could be persuaded in store before you consume. So it's a very standard funnel. We're going to move into a situation of tomorrow where the algorithms inform you before. Your algorithm will read, you like North Sea containers falling. Because you like North Sea containers falling, the emotion attached to that is people's Shein clothes are falling into the ocean, and it makes you happy. And because you are happy that people's Shein clothes, which aren't sourced or made sustainably, are falling into the ocean, let's try and recommend products that are actively fighting sustainable causes. So it's a journey where you aren't fed an ad, you're funneled an emotion. And when you funneled an emotion, you will start to engage brands that are heart-led before you come into store. And by the time you come into store in the traditional funnel, you're still being persuaded in store. When the algorithms lead you, you will come into store already knowing what you want if you go into store at all. We were in a presentation 2 weeks ago where ShopRite reflected to us that almost 40% of their business is now being driven through 60/60. 40%. And they reflected to us that in certain neighborhoods, it's markers as high as 70, 80%, which made sense because there's certain stores you walk into and it's a ghost town. There's no people there. It's just those 60 people like knocking you everywhere. And it's because the journey has already started for certain people. They're being funneled through an emotion. If you log on 60/60, there are retailer tiles, right? The Friday night in, lunch. This is already starting the journey in a very, very elementary way around how emotion channels a shopper journey. Okay, so let's talk about who's getting it right. I'm not self-praising, but I gotta self-praise. So we're gonna look at a compelling case study. Good. The people on this case study, they were just working flat out, working. The successes came, they deserved it. Get it? Got it. So we're going to talk about South Africa's icon. There are very few brands that signal and mark what it means to be Cupcake's children, like this brand. They form part of who we are. You see people who say, I moved to the UK, I buy knickknacks for 300 Rand now. Oh, I miss South Africa so much. And why did you go? Knickknacks. Another one I can really think of, shockingly, Marmite, which is not a South African brand, by the way. It's not it's just taken a true South African heritage and identity. I don't know if there's other Bavro. I must stop mentioning the yucky FMCG brands. Outsurance is a classically South African brand in a service industry. The Springboks.
Zambak.
Yes. I didn't hear. Yes.
Zambak.
Zambak. Yes. The real Makoya. Oh, trust me, blood jam. Anything else? Almost. South African heritage and identity.
Yeah.
This South African icon was limping along. It was limping along in terms of resonance with its core consumer. So the data point we started at is what are the origins of this brand? And the origins of knickknacks as a brand start ekasi. So the core insight, and it comes from, we do qual pieces of research, quant pieces of research, Kantar's involved, Nielsen is involved. We go out, we were at Bara, we go to taxi ranks. We want to understand what is it about this concept, this idea of kasi that people connect with so much. Consumers tell us, kasi is about food, it's about fashion, it's about a vibe, man. There's something indescribable. What they're annoyed by is the romance attached to language about kasi. Because they reflect to us to say, we live ekasi, but nobody wants to stay here forever. So when brands talk about, hey, ekasi, we want to go. We love it, but we want to go. So a brand that taps into that tells us you can be inspired by where you're from, but still dream a bigger dream for yourself is what's missing. Oops, going the wrong way. So the brand had lost major relevance. our recipe formulation agency did a piece of research where they basically said, we've asked just a couple of people on site, and then we went to Taxi Rank and we did a subset sample for you. What do people think knickknacks is? And they say knickknacks is a 55-year-old man who drives a Cressida and has gems as his medical aid. I was shattered because we've spent millions thinking that we're talking about this icon, this youth. No, people associate youth and Kasi with chipper-necks, with go-slows. I mean, go-slows if you've tasted them. We have taste excellence, we have all of these things, but they are not landing. We've lost relevance. Not only have we lost relevance, we've lost it with our core consumer. They don't know what we stand for anymore. We've hurt their hearts. We've made a packet that was 1 rand, now 1 rand 50. Cyril is coming and now we came on top with our 50 cent. So they were totally out of salience with us. So we had work to do around driving salience and consideration, and then at the moment of choice, consumers must pick knickknacks. And it led us to what I mentioned earlier, that from how they speak, walk, and dress to how they hustle, innovate, and create, youth yaseKasi have an effortless ability to add a unique flair to all that they do. We sit in a meeting, PR joins us, and there's a video that's doing the rounds on social media. This is not a paid video. It's just so galvanizing that everyone is talking about it. It's the middle of Bram. Uncle Vinny is on a car. It's raining. Bram is shut down. Vinny is on a car. Hey, like, people have come out of their flats. The Vitsies are no longer getting the edge. Everyone is on the streets for the single moment where it's Uncle Vinny's birthday, and they galvanize by just being with the vibe, being in the vibe. And we think, as a brand, that's what we need. We need to be Vinny on that car. And so we underline that actually this brand celebrates and showcases what it means to have a Kasi spirit about you. That's the ethos, the societal role that this brand plays. Its purpose is to champion true Kasi spirit. This is where we were lacking. Our role was clear, but the purpose wasn't landing with the people that we needed it to land. And the DNA, the architecture we used to land this message is that we're the original neck. I'm a Chipa necks, I'm a Chisa necks, I'm a Papa necks, Susie necks, Zaza necks. And the reason there's so many necks, I must tell you, is that an extruder machine, and it's the machine that pops any kind of neck, is relatively easy to set up. If you have 400,000 rand and some garage nyana space, you can set up an extruder machine and pop your own necks. It's not like potato chips, which need a peeler. They go through much more processes to get to a final potato chip. An extruder is relatively cheap to make, which is why you see a lot of these plucky startups. But we remain the original Kasi neck. And so we then implore Camtop to highlight for us what are the core trends that our consumer is tapping into, leaning into, and which do we pick to say this is what we chase to get to the ideal, to repurpose this brand. And the one that came out as compelling was this creativity out of constraint. This is what it means to champion Kasi spirit. You get creative despite your limitations, despite your environment. You make things happen no matter what. Your mom could be working, kitchening, earning 2.5, but naganjani, you're going to Madison Square Garden. Get it? Good. So we pick creativity out of constraint as the core and compelling message we want to land.
My name is Kabelo Vincent Ndlovu, president of the youth. I'm from Hillbrow. I call it like a Beauty and the Beast. It's beastly inside, but there's still beauty inside. I describe my creativity as pure energy. Creativity flows. It's something that you have to feel. In Hillbrow, dance culture is a big thing. There's no kid in Hillbrow that you can pass that doesn't know how to dance. My hood made me the person I am today. My neck is different, man. It's a different swag. I'm very unapologetic. Whatever the circumstance could be, always try to find the light. From your Kasi creator, from your Kasi original snack, see you in Tuvani.
So we find Uncle Vinny, we find Kalami Sim and Dikoala, and basically, because you have creativity out of constraint, go guys, see, there's certain dreams that are just not possible, and you know what I'm talking about. If you're at home, you talk about, I want to rap, I want to be a fashion designer. Your mom is like, no, how about a doctor? How about that? How about an engineer? How about that? How about something in Cyril's country that's actually going to make the money back in this household? So the data point that we found out of Creative Constraint is that the kids who are pursuing creative paths are often being left out of the mix. Government is funding STEM bursaries. Government is funding more doctors, more engineers. Government isn't funding creativity. And we know that creativity is the lifeblood of any functioning society. A country that has no artists, no designers, no poets, nothing creative, you can see it will rot from the inside out. And I think a lot of what we experience with societal issues or societal frameworks in South Africa today is by virtue of the fact that we've deprioritized culture and creativity. If you go to Europe, where culture, where art, where fashion, where music is still akin to God level. I mean, you are a doctor. If you are a painter who makes a living, you see the fundamental difference in the ideals of how people engage each other. And so we say we are the brand that wants to step into the gap for that. The kids who want to do graphic design, but you've got a mom who says, be a nurse. Be a nurse because in this house, electricity is expensive. We must fund whatever their creative pursuits are. So we find these 3 young people, each with their own kind of core markers. And more than that, because our story is Kasi-led, these young people must be inspired where they're from. Kaleme Sim from Phoenix in KZN, Dikoala, Wanyanga, Kanyisa Unfiltered, Kwalanga. So all of these people, where they're from has colored who they are, and they've picked creative paths, despite whatever difficulty. Dee, at the time that we'd met her, her mother had just passed on. And she was the working person in the household, a rapper. That is what was funding the household. I mean, anyone who come and say, girl, are you serious? This is how you're going to sustain the family. You're going to rap. And she said, Jonga, I'm going to do it. And she's doing it. So we stood in the gap in terms of these creative pursuits. As far as the journey, obviously, there's a purpose-led element, and it's getting out our dreams. We want it to be the brand that stands for what it looks like to get your dreams out there. We start with, if this brand exists in the Kasi space, what are we doing in traditional or wholesale channels? Our approach at that time, and it was a very new idea, Sebenza Wi-Fi. I think all brands now on Sebenza Wi-Fi. And the principle of Sebenza is you get onto a taxi and there's free Wi-Fi for your commute. For a lot of people in this country who work in urban areas, you're traveling up to an hour every day just to get to work. Imagine if a brand could talk to you while you're on that journey. Sebenza Wi-Fi is free, it's fully brand funded, and we feed you ads. We communicate with you. We learn while you're on Sebenza Wi-Fi what you're clicking to, what are you liking. And we start what is going to be an algorithm, emotion-led journey for you based on what it is you're doing in the taxi that you're in. Excuse me. We find Kasi youth creatives and we say to them, we talk about championing Kasi. Our Kasis look terrible. Things are derelict, they're neglected. Let's make Ikasi beautiful again. So we employ young people to do knickknacks, murals all over Kasis. I think some of the most compelling ones we actually did Imlas. You know how every time you drive into a Ikasi, there's some old municipal billboard, welcome to an liquor ad. And we say actually the entryway to life Ikasi shouldn't be a liquor ad. We should be making a statement about who you're going to be when you enter Ikasi. And so we champion branding the entryway to Ikasi. Umlazi one is really compelling because the way it was designed, there's one way in and one way out. There's a bridge you have to cross. Everyone crosses that bridge to get in. So any brand who owns that gateway to one of the biggest townships in this country, you really own a fundamental message. We meet wholesale hawkers, traders, spaza shop owners, and we ask them, why aren't you stocking knickknacks anymore? Why aren't you selling knickknacks? They tell us the kids aren't asking for them. The kids want Zimba's Zaza necks, Chipa necks, Chocha necks. And so we build a hawker and trader program. And the hawker trader program rewards every purchase that a hawker makes that is knickknacks related. We give you exactly how MTs would work if you were buying liquor. We give you a reward back for buying knickknacks. We meet you at other big spaza, big distributors to sell to you. We meet you on social, and it all culminates in a journey where we identify young people with compelling ideas and reward them with being able to further their dreams. One of the winners we found, and I think he's next. Okay. The campaign bottoms out, obviously, into total success. This little brand, and when I say little brand, this is a PepsiCo brand, so it's sitting with giants like Lay's, Doritos, Simba, a little 10 million rand brand breaks through the ceiling, turns market share around, and this campaign gets selected for official Cannes entry. It's such a compelling piece of work around how data can connect to emotion and break through for an audience who's often not considered. I'm out of time, but I want to quickly run to this Gen AI slide. And I think it's because Gen AI is such a compelling idea and a compelling topic. And maybe just reflect one thing very briefly. What's really very clear when it comes to Gen AI is that the architecture has reached a kind of mid-ceiling. And what I mean by that is it's data or descriptive based, right? So it's easy to tell ChatGPT, why did the Jaguar relaunch fail? It scours the internet and brings me a data set. The reason why Gen AI is kind of reached an architecture ceiling is because AI in its foundations has no feedback loop. If I talk to you and I say something that upsets you, I know it because I see it on your face. That's what makes me and you human. Gen AI doesn't have that. So oftentimes the responses we get, the information it shoots out feels phony. It feels soulless. And I will reflect to say that Silicon Valley is working very hard to build better feedback loops so that the AI becomes more reflective of human character. And it's really to say, if you are in this room and thinking AI can't replace me because I can do PowerPoints and align every sentence in my PowerPoint, you are very dreaming. What you actually need to do is show your value from a heart and emotion. Show that you have a stronger feedback loop. I really, really liked, and I wrote it down here, and I want to read it back. Something I read a few days ago, actually, that Mike Abel, who's MNC Saatchi founder, he wrote a really, and it's still up on his LinkedIn, you should read it, where he really talks about we've been frightened a lot, right? In terms of frightened out of the value of marketing, building brands, using data to tell emotional stories. It started with direct marketing. We're told, hey, the Avon model is going to tank what you marketers do because now they go straight to the consumer. Did it? No. Right? We were told CRM and the big data webs we're building is going to crash traditional marketing. It didn't. Then we were told internet and Google is going to do that. It absolutely didn't. Then social came and we were told there's no way. Social really creates community discussions and environments. It's going to tank your position and your role as traditional marketers or traditional brands. And it didn't. Meta came, the same conversation happened, and now Gen AI. The fundamental truth, and I really like how he captured it, and I want to reflect, as far as Gen AI, I'm not an evangelist, I'm not a doomer, I'm just somebody who understands that the world of Gen AI is evolving faster than any one of us in this room can appreciate. And just because the architecture doesn't work now, doesn't mean it's not going to work tomorrow, or the architecture hasn't progressed further. Let me put it that way. He basically said that despite all of those things, what marketing is, it's thinking led. And as brands, when you marry data with emotion, you show your value from a thinking-led point of view. You need to deepen that. You need to deepen that in activation. I don't want to know that you targeted 1,000 people and you reached 1,000 people. I want to be right. How many times have you gotten a report that says 600,000 engagements? So flippin' words. Right? You need to show your thinking relative to what Gen AI, to what data can spit out at me. You need to humanize it. And that's where the meeting point, that's where emotion and storytelling meet. And you get brands that transcend, that reach icon status. Get it? Got it. Thank you.